Okay, so let's just dive right in. If you've ever looked at a civil service exam notice, you've probably seen a section called something like Understanding and Applying Administrative Principles. On the surface, it sounds pretty straightforward, right? You just need to know some basic rules of management. But, well, the reality is a whole lot more complex. And today, we're going to pull back the curtain and show you what's really going on. This quote right here, it's from the Study Civil Service Guide. And honestly, it's the key to this whole thing. The exam notice gives you a simple title, but it's hiding the real challenge. So, what exactly is being understated? Well, that's what we're here to figure out. This isn't just another section on a test, it's a test of a very specific and pretty high-level skill. First things first, let's talk about this understated test and what it's really trying to measure. This part of the exam, it's not just about knowing the rules in a book. It's actually designed to find people who can make really sound judgments when the path forward isn't obvious at all. Now, before we get into what this section is, it's just as important, maybe even more so, to understand what it is not. A lot of people walk into this exam completely unprepared because they make some very common and very wrong assumptions. So let's clear those up right now. This slide really lays it all out, doesn't it? The myth versus the reality. A ton of people think this is just a terminology test, a memorization game, or some abstract theory quiz. Nope, not even close. As you can see on the right, it's actually a test of your judgment, your ability to think about whole systems, and your deep understanding of public accountability. So if it's not about memorizing flashcards, what in the world is it about? The source material calls it a structured administrative judgment examination. Yeah, that's a mouthful, I know, but those three words are absolutely everything. It's not just about having good judgment in general, it's about applying it in a structured, repeatable, and most importantly, a defensible way. And this slide right here, this is what administrative judgment means for this exam. Every single decision you make in one of these scenarios has to be aligned with the agency's mission, backed up by data, follow the proper procedures, and, here's the big one, it has to be defensible under scrutiny. You literally have to imagine yourself explaining your choice to a review board or the public. Would it hold up? Okay, so how do you actually do that when you're under pressure, staring at a clock? How do you show this kind of judgment on a multiple choice test? Well, you need a framework. A kind of mental model for breaking down any scenario the exam decides to throw at you. Let's take a look at what that framework involves. The people who write these exams are looking for these very specific abilities. And you see the theme here, right? It's all about being thoughtful and strategic. You don't just react, you diagnose the root cause. You don't just take action, you apply proportional action. You don't just make a decision, you make sure it's aligned with the whole agency's mission. These are the building blocks of a great answer. And here it is, a clear 5-step framework you can use. For any question you're facing, just mentally walk through these steps. First, which answer choice best aligns with the mission? Second, which one gets to the real root cause of the problem? Then you think about resources. Make sure the action isn't an overreaction. And finally, ask yourself, which of these is the most defensible choice? Now, knowing the right way to think is only half the battle. You also have to understand how the test writers create the wrong answers. Because, let me tell you, they are designed to be incredibly tempting, and they hide their flaws right out in the open. This is the secret. The wrong answers aren't going to sound crazy or totally incompetent. In fact, they'll often sound like a pretty reasonable common sense solution. But their flaw is that they are strategically incomplete. They might solve one tiny part of the problem, but they end up creating a new one or just ignoring the bigger picture entirely. Let's look at some of these traps. So an answer choice might suggest a quick reaction. That's the trap. The flaw? It's a knee-jerk reaction that lacks any real analysis. Or another choice might put out the immediate fire but completely ignore the long-term consequences. It addresses the symptom, like an employee always being late, but it fails to fix the underlying system issue, like maybe a broken scheduling process. Recognizing these patterns is absolutely crucial. All right, let's bring it all together now. What is the mindset that actually gets rewarded on this exam? What kind of thinking are the test designers trying to find? I'll tell you this much, it's not about being the fastest or the most decisive person in the room. This comparison really is key. You do not get points for just making a decision quickly or for picking the most popular option. You are rewarded for structured, objective, proportional, and defensible reasoning. Every single time. That is the core of the winning mindset. And why does all of this even matter? Because this exam is really just a simulation of a real-world responsibility. The job of a public administrator is to balance two critical things: delivering effective results for the public, while at the same time protecting the public's trust. This exam is designed to find the people who can do both. Ultimately, this is the question the exam is asking you, and it's the question you should be asking yourself. This goes way beyond just passing a test. It's about being ready for the weight of that responsibility. So are you ready?